All right, let's dive into one of the all-time great American novels, Mark Twain's The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. In this explainer, we're going to break down everything you need to know, the characters, the big moments, the themes, basically giving you a complete guide to Tom's world right on the Mississippi River. So, first things first, meet our main guy, Tom Sawyer. Now, he's not your typical straight-laced hero. Not at all. He's mischievous, his imagination is always running wild, and yeah, he's a bit of a show-off. He lives with his Aunt Polly, who's always trying to keep him in line, but honestly, he'd much rather be leading a band of pirates than sitting in a classroom. And that really gets us to the big question of the whole book. Tom starts out as this clever, charming troublemaker, but by the end, he's a genuine hero. So how in the world does that happen? What's the journey that takes him from just being a mischievous kid to being a moral, heroic young man? Well, let's find out. Okay, let's get into our first section, A Boy's World. We start in the small town of St. Petersburg, Missouri. And Mark Twain, right from the get-go, he sets up the central conflict of the story. It's the stuffy rules of civilized society versus a boy's powerful desire for freedom. Now, you can't really understand Tom without understanding his best friend, Huckleberry Finn. They're like two sides of the same coin. See, Tom, for all his rebellion, he secretly craves social approval. He wants to be the center of attention, the hero everyone looks up to. But Huck? Oh, Huck is a whole different story. He's a total outcast, the juvenile pariah, and he loves it. He has this absolute, pure freedom that Tom can only dream about. Early on, we get this perfect window into Tom's clever mind with the famous fence whitewashing scene. It's just brilliant. He's been punished with this horrible chore, but what does he do? He rebrands it. He makes it seem like the most exclusive, desirable activity in town. He actually tricks his friends into paying him for the privilege of doing his work. And this is where Twain gives us what he calls a great law of human action. If you want to make somebody want something, you just have to make it hard to get. On to our second section, The Graveyard Secret. And believe me, this is where the childhood games come to a screeching halt. What starts as a silly superstition turns into something incredibly dark, and it really becomes the moral center of the whole novel. So picture this. Tom and Huck sneak into the graveyard at midnight. They're trying to cure warts with a dead cat, as you do. But what they end up seeing is absolutely horrifying. There's a fight between the villainous Injun Joe, the town drunk Muff Potter, and Dr. Robinson, and they watch as Injun Joe murders the doctor and then puts the bloody knife into the hand of Muff Potter, who's passed out drunk. A perfect frame job, right in front of their eyes. They are absolutely petrified of Injun Joe. I mean, who wouldn't be? So they swear a blood oath right then and there to never, ever tell anyone what they saw. And this is the critical moment. They are now trapped by their own fear, forced to stay silent while they know an innocent man could hang for a crime he didn't commit. So for our third section, we're looking at conscience on trial. Because that secret, it just starts to eat away at Tom. The rest of the book is really this huge battle going on inside him. His terror of Injun Joe on one side and his guilty conscience on the other. And he tries everything he can think of to escape that guilt, which ironically leads to some of his most famous adventures. First, he literally tries to run away from his problems. He, Huck, and their friend Joe Harper escape to Jackson's Island to become pirates. Of course, the whole town thinks they've drowned, which lets Tom pull off his greatest stunt ever. They sneak back and attend their own funeral. Instantly, they're heroes. But even that fame isn't enough to make the guilt go away. Finally, he just can't take it anymore. In this super dramatic courtroom scene, he stands up, tells the truth, and saves Muff Potter. But Injun Joe escapes through a window, and now Tom isn't just a hero, he's a marked man. And you have to understand, this is the turning point for Tom's character. It's the first time in the book he knowingly puts someone else's life before his own safety. He's fully aware that Injun Joe will come after him, but he chooses to do the right thing anyway. This is the absolute peak of his moral journey. Which brings us to our final section, Treasure, Terror, and Triumph. With Injun Joe on the loose, the story is just barreling towards its final massive confrontation, and it all centers around a hunt for hidden treasure that puts the boys directly in the path of a killer. So the boys are exploring a haunted house when they literally see Injun Joe and his partner with a box overflowing with stolen gold. They overhear his plan to hide it under the cross. And just like that, the treasure hunt isn't a game anymore. It's real, and it is incredibly dangerous.
Okay, this is where everything comes together in this unbelievably tense climax. Tom and his crush, Becky Thatcher, get lost in a massive maze-like cave. They're running out of food, running out of hope, and then, in the darkness, Tom sees a figure holding a candle. It's Injun Joe, using the cave as his new hideout. After days of pure terror, Tom heroically finds a new way out and saves them both. But when they get back to town, Becky's father, Judge Thatcher, makes an announcement. To prevent anyone else from getting lost, he's had the cave sealed shut with a massive iron door.
And this moment right here, it shows you just how far Tom has come. Instead of just celebrating his own survival, he's horrified. Why? Because even though Injun Joe is his mortal enemy, his first thought is for the man's life. He knows the terror of being trapped in that pitch-black darkness, and he wouldn't wish it on anyone. The townspeople all race to the cave and pry the door open, but it's too late. They find Injun Joe dead, right by the entrance. He died of starvation. And with his death, the threat is finally, permanently gone. Tom Sawyer is completely free from the fear that's been haunting him for most of the book. But wait, what about the treasure? Tom has a flash of insight. Under the cross, it must be inside the cave. He and Huck go back. They follow the clues, and they find it. Over $12,000 in gold, which back then was an unimaginable fortune. They return to St. Petersburg not just as heroes, but as rich heroes. In the end, Tom slides easily into his new role as the town's celebrated, wealthy hero. He loves it. But Huck? Huck is a different story. He gets adopted by the very kind widow Douglas, but he just can't stand it. He hates the regular meals, the clean clothes, all the rules. For Huck, being civilized feels more like a prison than a reward. And that's where Twain ends the novel. He basically explains that this is a story about a boy, and the story of a boy has to stop before he becomes a man. Tom's journey from troublemaker to hero is complete. To go any further would be telling a whole different kind of story.
So, while Tom finds his place within society, Huck is already plotting his escape from it, which of course sets up his own incredible novel. And it leaves us with a great final question to think about. After all these adventures, after everything he's seen and done, what kind of man do you really think a boy like Tom Sawyer grows up to be?